Okay. Timestamp. Cheese knife. Off-screen cheese knife. I'm Devin, your friendly name board gamer. This is Devin Talks Tabletop, YouTube channel where the games are made up. What I say doesn't matter. And, at the end of the day, guys, I realized I'm a picky board gamer for the most part, but also not. So I don't really know where I'm going with this. All of that to say, sometimes I play Euros, and sometimes I don't want to. And that's not really fair, to be honest, because you've already seen the title of this video, and that's probably not the best way to lead into this. I like Anno 1800. I was a fan of it. It was enjoyable. It was interesting. I could see the strategy of that push and pull of when you need to decide to stop accruing more population and therefore more population cards, and how you need to methodically work through them and play the population cards you have to get the victory points for the end of the game, and also to clear your hand, because when you clear your hand of population cards, that triggers the end game. I like that push and pull. I like that growth of your hand as you push into more population with more skilled workers, moving from regular farmers to workers to artisans to engineers, and then all the way up to investors. I think that is really clever, and I like the board that varies in terms of what you're able to accomplish yourself, but because there's a limited or finite amount of space on your own player board, you do occasionally have to dip in and beneficially use the tiles of other players that are maybe different from the tiles you have, or maybe they're the same, but yours is filled with your workers and you haven't celebrated a festival yet. There's a lot of stuff that's going on in the game that I appreciated. However, I just don't see myself really ever playing it over a game like Brass Birmingham. I think that it's close enough in some of the mechanical elements in terms of like building industries, the industries scoring points for you, and elevating or upgrading those industries with different or enhanced versions of them. There is some deviation there, like a pretty moderate amount of deviation in terms of what they do differently, to be fair, because in Anno 1800, it's a lot more different types of industry tiles that you're focusing on, and you can really go in different paths in terms of what you're creating. There's also this big push-pull between the tiles that you create on land and then also the ships that you build, because the ships allow you to both create more trade options for yourself, and they enable you to look and explore both in the old world and the new world, giving you more land to build on and giving you new tiles that present new trade options for different resources that you wouldn't have access to otherwise. There's a lot of positive in Anno 1800. It is a long game. I felt like it was longer than Brass Birmingham. I think that potentially once you get used to it, maybe you could increase the speed at which you make some decision points. But also, I think there's just such a large decision space with each turn regarding tiles that you might need that you don't have, tiles that your other competitive rivals, the other players may have, that you can get access to when you should be pursuing like aggressive military exploration with the advent of New World and Old World tiles, or when you should be doing trade vessels, merchant vessels that give you those tokens to allow you to trade with the places you've already visited and also rely on the benefit of what your opponents have. So there's a lot of decisions to be made in Anno 1800. I just don't know if they were as compelling to me as Brass Birmingham and maybe a couple other Euros that I've made. I really like having a physical space that I can interact with. And in Brass Birmingham, you have the map. You have the map of Birmingham or Lancaster and the surrounding, towns, train lines, canal lines that you are able to build upon to create a network for yourself, to engage with the network of your other players that are around the table with you. And that physical space feels more inviting to me in terms of what I'm trying to figure out for a strategy. Anno 1800 is a lot more abstracted because it literally is just tiles on your board, and you're creating more tiles, you're creating more ships, you're creating more shipyards, you're creating more industries that you work on, and then you move your worker cubes onto them. I liked it. I had a good time with it. I think that there's a lot of value there. It's just that for the length that it is and for the level of abstractedness that it is, I appreciate and I respect what went into that design. I think Martin Wallace is a fantastic designer. He obviously knows bukus more than I ever will. But it did not engage me in the way that I want games to. And honestly, I played with Daniel from Play the Game headquarters, and we played for probably 2.5 hours, and the amount of conversation we were able to sustain between each other was so limited. It was a sparse experience in terms of chit chat. And most of that is chalked up to the fact that we were just trying to figure out what to do on our turns. And that will ease up a little bit as you play more games, but also it won't, because you're just constantly reevaluating the decision space. Do the industries that you currently have, do they line up with what you need to build? Do you need to start getting rid of population cards? Do you need to replace some of the industries you have? Do you need to make some of the industries you have be implemented or activated by different types of workers? Do you want to switch out workers for artisans or artisans for workers in terms of what you're trying to build upon? Do you need to switch your industry focus to more ship focus, to where you can get some more tiles, or to where you can get additional resources that you need to activate population cards? How close is someone to finishing their hand of population cards and therefore triggering the end of the game? It's a lot of stuff to take in, and because it's a lot of stuff to take in, it just limited the amount of time I felt like I could casually engage in conversation or engage in conversation about the game, because at the end of the day, our board states were so different that what was there to talk about beyond, hey, do you still have pigs? Or, hey, do you still have soap? And that kind of stuff. I liked it. It was a fun game. I would not say no to playing it, but I personally just would not pick it. And, I know it's based off a video game because it's got the, collaboration or partnership with Ubisoft for Anno 1800. But, woo, hoo, hoo. It's just, it was a lot. It was a lot for me. And part of it was maybe when I played it. Part of it was, where my brain's at. My brain is scattered right now as I'm trying to get all these things ready before Essen. And so maybe it just wasn't the best first play environment for it. But yeah, there are Euros that I like. I like Brass Birmingham. I like quite 2 or 3, 4 others that I've played. But there are other ones that, even though I respect, admire the puzzle, and want to be better at it, games like Pipeline, I eventually just got rid of them because I know that I'm not going to choose to play them. I like them. I admire them. I wish I was better at them, but I know that would take more times of me playing that game, and I just am not going to choose to do that when I have other games that I know I would choose to play first. So, that was so rambling. I'm going to do a classic Devon thing and be completely out of order and be useless. To give you a lowdown of what Anno 1800 is, 8 minutes into the video, Anno 1800 is a resource conversion game. You have a player board that has got a base amount of beginning industries, and those industries are activated by workers. You start off with some farmers, which are green, and some workers, which are blue. You can eventually work your way up to artisans, which are red, engineers, which are purple, and investors, which are like teal or light blue. And those are the different workers of varying degrees of expertise that can activate different associated industry tiles. The industry tiles that you first start off with are pretty much only able to be activated by farmers, and you therefore can then upgrade to different industries that can be activated by workers. When you activate all of your workers, you put them in each location can be activated with up to 2 workers before it's full, and then you can't activate it anymore until one of 2 things happens. Until you celebrate a festival, which brings all of your workers back and all of your trade and exploration tokens back from your starting ships. And then also, in addition to that, you can pay gold to do a shift end and essentially retire or rest a worker back to their residential areas, which are really just their pools at the top of the board. And then you can bring them back because now you've opened up a slot on that tile. Your whole purpose is to increase the efficacy, the efficiency of your population, and therefore moving farmers to workers, workers to artisans, artisans to engineers, and engineers to investors, but keeping population amounts of each of those types to activate the different tiles that you do still need across the entirety of the game to do basic actions that you want. So there's this particular desire of when you need to add population, when you need to upgrade population, and the trick with that is that better and more population cubes extend the length of your turns in between when you celebrate festivals and kind of reset or refresh. But the flip side of that is that they also increase your hand size. Your hand size is indicative of the number of population that you have on your board. But the way to end the game or to trigger the game is to get rid of those population cards. Those population cards have immediate bonuses that you can activate whenever you want after they've been played. And then they also have a baseline of victory point that you will total up by the end of the game. However, they need, just like industry tiles and population workers need resources to attain those, you also need resources that you have to pay to play population cards. So it's this quite deep decision space in terms of figuring out, should you be pursuing some population cards, not the accumulation of them, but the playing of them? Should you be gathering more ships to increase your space by getting more old world tiles? Should you be expanding and getting more ships to where you can get some new world tiles, which give you new resources to trade for that no one else has access to? Do you want to continue to spit out whatever industry availabilities you have for either the cards in your hand or the tiles and workers you're going after? Or do you want to expand and replace some of the tiles that you have? Because, as I mentioned, there's a finite space for industry tiles. There's only 2 rows of island tiles which go towards your industry. Then there's a single row of coastline which goes to your shipyards. And then there's a single row of sea or water tiles which your ships are docked in or sailing through. It's a lot of stuff, and it's quite a bear to look at visually from the get-go. Once you play a few rounds of it, the gameplay itself is quite smooth and turns go quickly, but there's just a lot of turns if you're learning the game, or also depending on the strategy that you're doing. Maybe you're the kind of player who doesn't want to hard push the playing of the population cards, and you would like to increase your industry so that you can get bigger and better cards, but that also means you're likely increasing the size of your population, and if you're doing that, you're getting more population cards, which means it's going to take you longer to get through them. There are some population cards that the bonus of which, when you play them, is actually to cull some cards out of your population deck or your hand, but you're not always guaranteed that you're going to get those. It's a fun game. I liked it. I think it's clever. I think it's well designed. I think it works well. I think there's great variation in how you might play it because of the objective cards that you can go over between the industry that you might pursue based off the population cards you have in hand. All of those choices are compelling and they're engaging, but they're engaging in a way that highlights to me the types of games I don't enjoy, which is minimal player interaction. I like hanging out with people. I like talking to people. That's why I play games for the most part. I have enjoyed solo games. I have enjoyed jumping into those and just playing games. But I primarily, if I'm going to spend time by myself, I'm usually going to read a book, or I'm going to play video games, or I'm going to watch a movie, or I'm going to exercise. One of those things is going to happen. So I usually don't play board games to play them by myself. And Anno 1800 just had so little communication with Daniel over the course of the 2.5 hours. It felt like he came over to my house and then we didn't hang out. It was a little weird. It was a little weird. But I liked the game. I like it. I think that a lot of players who enjoy Euros would be very enthused and appreciative of the experience. It's well done. It is well done. It's just not for me. And other games and other Euros, I'm going to pick them over this. And so, yeah, I liked it, but I'm not keeping it. And that's Anno 1800, guys, in a nutshell. in a nutshell that you have to go to the New World to be able to trade for. Yeah. Bye.